And our other part of the build is the cases for the engine are here as well. I've had these a couple of years. I bought them off somebody who'd had them also sat around for a couple of years, so they need a really good bougie. And there's some bits and pieces to remove, oil pump, intermediate shaft. But because I'm completely stripping these cases back to just the cases, I'm going to pressure wash it with degreaser and water to make it clean, because it doesn't matter at this early stage. I'll be able to get it dried out properly and none of the oilways will be contaminated with water. So that's the process I'm going to use, and then as we start going back together we'll have a nice clean block. I need to do that because you've got so much dirt here. If any of that gets in the engine during the build process, you can undo all your hard work when you first turn over the engine. Okay, time to start taking the bearings out. So I've released the bearing clip that was holding in the gearbox output shaft, so I've got to push this one out, the main bearing out, and the intermediate bearing, which was held in with a circlip that's been removed. So got a bearing press to use, and we will slowly start working us through. So the first piece to do, just to make it easier to push out, is heat the areas around the bearings. Just expands the cases because they're aluminium. It should make the bearings slightly easier to push out. Right, let's get on with that then. Okay, so that's the cases all cleaned up, and I've sanded them down ready to give them a light dust over with paint once we've finished putting the bearings in. Just got a couple little more bits to take out following what we found during the cleaning process. So these carriers are damaged, so I'm going to remove these and put in some spares I've got so that I know that they're in good condition. We'll then start putting the bearings in. So these are the 4 gear bearings. The outputs of each end, i.e. where the sprocket connect and the clutch connect, are 6305s TNC frees, and then the opposite ends, the support ends for the gearbox, are BC1s-0538s. The main bearings that are going in are 2 different sizes. You've got a 7207 by 2 ETN and a 7307 by 2 ETN. These are made by RHP, so even if you get them direct from Ducati, they're the same ones. And then for the timing shaft, we've got 2 bearings. An RNU 202 ECP goes on one side, and a 6003 TN9/C3. Okay, what I'm going to do is get those bearings in the freezer now just to cool them off, so that will make them contract, which makes them a little bit easier to install in the cases, because we'll heat the case around each bearing just as we go to push it in, so that the installation is a little bit easier. Okay, so the tools that we need to get these bearings in: got a butane lamp just for heating the cases up, and a lighter just to get that lit, a pick for any small bits of debris in the bearing housings, circlip pliers for putting the circlip back in on the intermediate shaft bearing, plastic mallet to drift it in, and then set of bearing drifts. I also use an assortment of different size sockets for the larger bearings and old bearings that I've taken out to act as the drift. Okay, let's get on with this. Okay, part of the prep work. So we're going to be heating these cases up in a second, but I've got the main bearing holder put in with some bearing and sleeve holder fluid in there. And then last piece on the left hand side of the cases is we've got a seal to go in. There's the official Ducati number there, and this sits in this little hole just here, and it sits behind the bearing, so don't forget that when you're pushing your bearings in. Okay, let's get the bearings in. Okay, that's the left hand side casing completed. A few little tips I should give here actually. So it's really imperative this bearing here goes round in, the correct way. It's because it's not only a radial bearing, but it's actually takes axial load as well. So it absorbs the sideways movement of the crankshaft to a certain extent when it's in there, so it's got a slight taper in it. So you want to make sure your fin wall side of the bearing is inward. Another way to think of it is the most exposed bearing side needs to be inside of the engine, and that goes for all the other bearings as well. Make sure the ball bearing face is to the inside of the engine, because it's where most of its lubrication comes from, because it's splash lubricated. You'll also notice I had some green gunk that sat on this bearing here. It's just thread and bearing seal. These Ducati bearings on the mains can sometimes spin, so it's just a little bit of extra help to make sure it stays rigid in there. They're interference fits anyway, as you saw with how difficult they are to get in, but it's just a safety measure. Okay, let's get on with the second side. I do have an issue with this second set of cases though. The damaged bearing holder that I took out, if you remember talking about earlier, unfortunately all the spares I have are for the earlier cases. They're slightly thinner than this, so I've had to order a new one which will be here in a couple of days. So I'm going to push ahead with getting the other bearings in, and then we'll recircle back and do the main bearing once the new holder turns up. Okay, let's go ahead and get these bearings in then. Okay, that's the last set of bearings done in the right hand side of the case. As I said, once I get the main bearing holder, I'll pop this back in and I'll show you the process for doing both of those. I should have that hopefully later this week. I might do a little additional video as a result of that. So all the bearings are in. I'm just going to mask it all up now so that I can paint it. Hello, Leo. Have you come to help? Okay, so engine's all been masked up, brown paper and tape. The red that you can see everywhere is Hammerite's special metal primer. It like etches into the aluminium because you can't spray direct to aluminium with Hammerite. So I'm just gonna, over the next couple of days, just gently build up the paint on here so that we can get the cases looking really good. Unfortunately, I'm not going to show that because it started raining today. I would have done it today so we could have seen it, but next time you see these cases, hopefully they'll be lovely bright and silver. Thanks for watching this video. If you've got any questions or any comments, please enter down below. Chuck us a like if you so feel inclined, and subscribe to the channel for more content. The next video will probably be putting the cases together. I'm just waiting on some components, so I'll provide an update when I stick in the other main bearing. All right, all the best. Thank you for watching. Bye.